Greetings, 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 everyone, and welcome to another episode of Create Yourself Imagery, Intimacy, Innovation, a place where people from all walks of life and various backgrounds come to share their transformative personal and professional stories of restoration, confidence, clarity, and empowerment. They're here to share their helpful tools, resources, and affirming guidance. I'm Joyce Kyles, your global speaker, author, trainer, and coach. And if you're ready to transition, transform, and thrive, this is indeed the podcast for you. Today, for those of you who have been following me for some time now, you all know I get really excited about my guests because I value their time and their knowledge and their expertise. And this week is no exception. So if you're new to me, go back and listen to some of the other podcasts. You'll see I'm always excited. I'm always hyped. This week, I am especially excited about our guest because we just recently met maybe a couple of months ago. But when I tell you that our energy, synergy, the things that we believe in, our work ethic, our desire to be successful and to see others be successful is just, it was just meant to be that we talk. So I do thank my husband for the connection that he has with Atlanta Black Chambers and being the newly appointed membership lead. But he realized that she and I had already started talking even before he came and introduced us. So this is just full circle. We've had a chance to talk, to laugh, to share. And so I'm just going to present to some and introduce to others none other than everyone needs an Elsa Caleb. And before she comes on, let me just give you just a snippet. I know that for those of you when you tune in, you can read the bio, but I just need to say a couple of things out loud before she comes on. So she is Elsa Caleb Ltd, and it was founded in 1997 and incorporated in 2000. She has contracts with Old Oak Park Royal Development Corporation, a memorial development. She is delivering and offering training and mentoring through the Diocese of Westminster SEED program. And she leads the CPD-accredited mentoring for women in business. I also need to make sure that you all know, and let me say it in my voice, that in May 2025, Elsa was honored at Buckingham Palace by King Charles III for her contributions to skills and education. So we have some royalty in here with us today. So without further ado, let me go ahead and reintroduce none other than everyone needs an Elsa Caleb. Welcome to the show.
Oh, Joyce, thanks very much for such a lovely welcome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for saying yes to us today. We are so fortunate that you have taken time out of your extremely busy schedule to be with us. So let's not belabor the point and let's just get to it. Take
Mhm.
us on your create yourself journey. What made you decide that this was the right path for you?
That's an interesting question, Joyce, because I think it was back in, and as you can see, I started my business in 97, but I'm going to take you way back to when I decided to have a career change in 91 it was. That was just when I had the career change, but a few years prior to that, I was in the arts. Yep, I was an arts officer. My background is dance, and a lot of people in the Midlands, that's up north in England, they would know me as a dancer. Always been a jazz dancer, but I wanted to use my creativity, and I was able to use that by going down to London and becoming the Caribbean focus coordinator. Not a lot of people remembers that because, as I say, that was back in the 80s. So there's not a lot of people maybe around now, but back in the day, it was a positive initiative. And unfortunately, I'll just say now, we just lost Dame Ross Howells, who actually headed up Caribbean Focus back then. And we just recently lost her she's actually in the House of Lords a few weeks ago. And
Oh,
okay, so I came down to London as a Caribbean Focus coordinator initially for 5 months. That was it, 5 months. Okay, and I found that my work ethic was such that I was diligent, focused, didn't take no nonsense, head down, just did the work. Within that 5 months, I was fortunate enough to be asked, well, okay, after this contract. What do you plan to do? And I'm thinking, I don't want to go back up north. I actually want to stay in London. So I made how can I say, I told them I'd love to stay in the arts, but there was an arts department and I was fortunate enough to be introduced to that department. And that's where I started my creative side. And what did that mean? It meant organising the large annual Brent show. It meant organising the carnival. It meant organising the fireworks display in November of every year. But I was also allowed to manage the women's groups and the grants that went with that as well. So I was doing that diligently for about quite a few years. And then my manager said that the government was going to make some cuts and suggested that I go back and study for a leisure qualification. And I remember I wrestled with that and I kept saying, leisure? I can't see leisure in me. But I decided I was debating whether or not to do the legal side and become a solicitor, a lawyer, or business. And the business one. And the reason why the business side won was because I was thinking, oh, one day I'm going to get married. One day I'm going to have children. And I want that flexibility. And yep, so said, so done. So when my son was 2 years old, okay, that's rushing quite further forward. In 97, that's when I started my business. But reversing back to 91, that's when I finished my qualification. And what's interesting is I remember I finished in the July. In the September, I started a job with the Prince's Youth Business Trust, which is now the King's Trust. So who would have known that way back then, I would have been connected with the King from then?
Wow.
So that role that I did there was for me to be, I had to work within the 11 boroughs south of the river. That's Thames River in London. That meant all those 11 boroughs, and they're quite large boroughs. I had to service them. And I would work with young people in prisons. I would go on their council estates. I'd even go in their homes. Wherever there were young people, I would work with them to put together their business plan so that they can then apply for the loan and the grants from the Prince's Youth Business Trust. Now, that trust, as I said, has changed its name. It used to be the Prince's Youth Business Trust, then the Prince's Trust. Now it's the King's Trust. So working with young people was where I started my role as an advisor. And with that came a lot of voluntary. I've always done voluntary stuff, but I was fortunate to be able to volunteer as the secretary for the Institute of Business Advisors, which is currently now called the Institute of Consulting. And one of the letters after my name, FIC, that's what that stands for. And I started there, this is voluntary, secretary, then membership secretary, vice chair, then I became the chair. When I became the chair, that was when another organisation, I won't mention it at this time, was attracted to us and wanted to merge. So we actually did a merger, a buyout. And I actually stayed until that was done. I stayed for a year and then handed it over to the current chair who runs it fantastically, of which I'm still a member. Okay. And other things that actually transpired whilst I was on my journey as a business advisor, being at the Prince's Youth Business Trust, as I say, it's now called the King's Trust, opened up a lot of doors, and it actually gave me the confidence in relation to networking. So I would network with people that I could only ever see on TV, whose names I've only ever read in books. But to actually meet them in person and to talk to them, I think that's where my fear of people in high places kind of, dissolved. So I don't have a fear of talking to anybody. So when people say, oh, would you talk to, so I said, of course I will, and I was going to talk to them. But that opened another door for me, working for the Small Business Council. There was 23 of us, and we actually advised I think it was up to 3 secretaries of state for trade and industry for the government. So then that gave me a deeper love for business and business issues, getting to understand how the government works, how we make decisions in relation to business, and the kind of things that we were able to talk through and actually change. And I remember one of the major things that we had round about that time was all legislation coming in from the EU, and we had changes in our legislation, and everyone was saying as small businesses, look, we don't have enough time to implement them, read them, understand them, digest them. So as a team, we actually enabled legislation to come into the country, whenever it did, but published them in April and in October. So people knew that they needed to be open and around to understand what the changes were in government, both on the EU level at that time and also within the UK. And there were other things that we actually talked about and changed and everything else. And there's reports around, running around somewhere. But then that's also attributed to some of the major things that we do here in the UK. Okay, and I've also been fortunate to become a chair of the Small Firms Enterprise Development Initiative. That's a standard setting body for the qualifications for businesses. I did that back in the 90s as well. And again, that positioned me to get to understand how business run. Also, I was fortunate as part of my business offering at that time was to train business advisors. And I say that because it's amazing when you meet even a consultant and you start to speak to them, how they speak to you as a business owner. And I'm sure that a lot of people would have experienced when they meet a consultant. The first thing the consultant does is, my name is, and they give you every qualification, everything they've done since they were born. And you're standing there with your mouth open and you're saying, so when am I going to get the opportunity to speak? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So in some cases, I had to turn that around for the business advisors, because one of the things I will always say, you've got two ears and one mouth for a reason. You
Mm.
listen twice as hard, and you speak only when you need to. You know what I mean? And sorry, I'm not allowing you in at all. Sorry.
Oh, no, no, you are wonderful. You are wonderful. So many nuggets that you are sharing. Your journey is fantastic. This is why I knew that once we had a chance to talk, it's like everybody has to hear from you. Everyone needs an Elsa. So you are, you are giving us what we need to justify why everyone absolutely needs you in their lives. Your journey is just, it is just fantabulous. That is my word. Um,
Sorry. I mean,
oh,
there's so much more I can say, but I'm going to allow you to lead, because otherwise the half an hour will just go.
oh, you are perfectly fine. You know, that's the one thing that is beautiful about this space is that it gives us an opportunity to just talk and share. And people don't want to come and hear me talk. They want to hear from my guests. I'm just asking the questions, and you are providing such a wealth of knowledge. Your journey, as I said, it's wonderful in that you have shown, well, I'll say this. One of the things that really stands out with me in all that you shared is when you talked about the confidence to network. And so this, I often say that my goal is to help people to transition, transform, and thrive. And
Okay.
that can't happen if you are afraid to talk, you're afraid to share, you're afraid to speak up, because the very person, I said, you never know the angel that you're entertaining. So
That's
we
correct.
can't be afraid to talk about our businesses and share our knowledge and share what we do. That's why I said, no, no, by all means, share the information that you have, because that's the only way that people know. I often talk with people who will say that they're afraid that if they talk about their business too much, well, people don't want to hear it, or you're talking too much and you're sharing too much. And then I have to remind them, how many times do you see McDonald's commercials? You see things from FedEx or Chick-fil-A, or just, any of these places, like they're constantly sharing because they're constantly looking for opportunities to share their products and their services. That said, people have to know who you are. And
Correct.
if you don't talk about it and don't share it, who's going to do it for you? So
Yeah, no, I do understand. I mean, I'm a quiet person because people assume that because of all that I've done, I'm extrovert. I'm definitely an introvert. I'm one of these people that will enter a room, I would observe that room, I'll see who the movers and shakers are, and I will, just by looking, if I don't know their names beforehand or look through the delegation list, I will earmark who I need to speak to. Not so much who I want to speak to, but who I need to speak to. And it's not always my agenda. And it could be because of the amount of businesses that I do represent and I work with. They could be saying, oh, Elsa, when you go to, the conference, I'm looking for somebody with X, Y, and Z. And I'll be identifying people and I'll think, okay, I'm definitely got to speak to that person, because I know if I go back to the UK, there's 10 people I know that will benefit from the conversation that I have. I always get told, Elsie, you never think about yourself. And I'm thinking, I do think about myself, but perhaps not in the percentage that people think about themselves. Some people think, okay, 90% me, 10% everybody else. My my degree is slightly, less. Do you know what I mean? I would do perhaps say 60% everybody else and 40% myself. But myself is not out there. It's very much in the development side as to what do I need to learn. What's my next step to enable for what I want to do to continue. So I've got a slightly different way of working things out for myself, because what I find is very difficult, having run my business now for 28 years, it's difficult to find people to motivate me. It's difficult to find people to even advise me, unless I go into a completely new field, which with this whole conference has opened up the export market. So I'm spending a lot of time learning about it, because it's new to me, and I'm finding it so exciting.
Oh, yes, and I can see you. So I'm seeing your face literally light up as you say that. And to know that you are an extrovert, you know what? I think people say that of
Introvert.
me too, introvert. People think that I am an extrovert, and I am not either. I consider myself very much to be an introvert. But you're a speaker and you're on stage and you're talking to people, and you all have no idea the fear and the terror that I feel sometimes on the inside. And yet, it is the place where I love and I shine and I glow and I get excited. And so, very much like you, I feel that it's important to look out for us. In fact, I talk about wellness all the time. So it's important that we think of ourselves and what we need and what our business needs and that kind of thing. But I also agree with you in that if we're thinking about the needs, the wants, and the desires of others, that is truly what helps us to holistically thrive. It's truly what helps us to be holistically successful, because
Yeah.
the business cannot be successful if we're only focused on us. And your longevity definitely speaks to your methodology that it works. People want to connect with people who are genuinely interested in what they need, what they want, what they desire. And when you keep that top of mind, it helps you, because you know that you are giving back and doing what it is that you are purposed to do. But it's also helping the business owner. And in turn, that business owner will tell someone else, you know what? I went along with the things that Elsa shared, that she connected me to, the people that she connected me to, those introductions. It turned out well. She's an excellent person to work with. You should work with her because everyone needs an Elsa, right? So,
I hear that. That's
so
interesting. Go on, you please.
no, no, no. So I was just gonna say, so just please continue doing what you're doing because it clearly works. And that is what we as business owners, what we need, want, and desire is for people to actually hear us and what our needs are and how you can help to fill that need.
Thank you very much. And I think as I go along and I keep on moving forward, although my services may sound and look the same, they do actually change. Because I remember when I was called a coach and did the coaching qualification, but now I choose to call myself a mentor. Yeah, because I find that people tend to understand that word more, and the way that I do operate is very much like a mentor. Not that I
Okay.
tell people what to do and everything else, but I guide them. I love to guide
Okay.
them.
Yes, I can see that, and you definitely have that type of spirit. You absolutely do. So I think
Mhm.
that's a good segue then for me to ask you about Seed. Tell us about that program, because I've had an opportunity to read through it, and it is fantastic. So if you would tell our listening audience more about it.
Well, the seed program is me working with the Diocese of Westminster,
Mhm.
and they have a program called the Seed Program. The well, the Diocese of Westminster is the organisation that owns all the large buildings in the UK, Big Ben, Westminster Cathedral, etc. But on a local level, they do a lot for the community. So the program that I'm currently working with them at the moment is a 6-month startup program, of which I think there's about approximately 23 but new businesses, because this is a startup program this time. They've all got their ideas, they all know what they want. And what we've done, the program consists of quite a few different facilitators who actually head up their field or their area. At one stage, I used to do all the training, but then I felt, well, we discussed it, and I said, you'll actually get more mileage if you brought experts in every field, because as much as marketing was my strength, that's now changed. Finance is my strength. Do you know what I mean? But what's very difficult is to keep up to speed with every single subject at the top level. So we felt, yep, more mileage if you bring in the specialists, they can focus on each area. Then my role is I see each business owner 6 times throughout the program. So that's once a month at this stage. But that hour that they spend with me is life transforming, because it's not just about talking about the business. They'll get all the education, that's not a problem. But when you come and speak with me, it's like, okay, I've been on this course, I hear what they're saying, X, Y, Z, but I can't quite put it all together. So I will talk about their personal life and what they're going through, because that's important, because you have to offload, understand where they're coming from, understand their background, then start to lay the foundation for the business. Because what I don't want in any way, shape or form is for the business not to move forward because of personal issues. So there's a lot of things that they can find with me and say to me that obviously it's just between me and them. I don't note it down. Nobody knows about it. But by the end of the 6 months, I can tell you right now, 97% would be my pass rate.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. I think that was one of the things that definitely gravitated me to you in thinking about my own journey and the things that I have needed, and how much it would have been helpful to have certain people in my life at that particular stage when I really needed the most encouragement and support and not feeling as comfortable. So I needed an Elsa way back, but I am grateful and thankful that I have had women and some men who have come into my life at different phases that were able to pick me up and to keep me moving, because yeah, the business is one part, and I had a nonprofit for several years before dissolving. But you need someone that you can talk to and share and be able to give you the additional supports and foundations that are necessary so that you can transition, transform, and thrive into the business world and be successful, without falling apart. And so I appreciate the fact that you do that with them as a component of all the work that you do. So, as we close this out, I do want to ask you, please tell our listening audience all about like, your services and the best ways to connect with you regarding your services. And I know that you shared some things, just to give us a timeline, but just share
Okay.
with us what you will.
Okay, I do the one-to-one consultancy advisory service, mentoring services, business startup courses, also my women's course, which has been accredited, and really I love that with a passion. So that's all about business development as well. And I do a lot of joint initiatives. And another course that I actually do is assist people when they want to pitch for business. So it's helping them on a one-to-one to go through that process as well. Mhm.
Oh, yes, and a lot of us need, and I'm saying us, I'm often transparent on this show. So I always say us. That is the one thing that I am still struggling with when it comes to pitching, just being comfortable to do it. I'm working on it. So again, everyone needs an Elsa. So, we've already talked. So I'll just say that and leave it there.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So with that being said, Elsa, I always share with the audience. So when they click on the link to listen to the show, your bio is there. But I always ask my audience, my guests, to share verbally where the best places are to connect with you regarding your services.
Okay, the best place, first and foremost, LinkedIn. You'll find me
Okay.
there. First name, second name, Elsa Caleb. Also, my website. I've made it easy, elsacaleb.co.uk. And also, if you got my number, which you can get off my website, you can get off LinkedIn, I love to connect through WhatsApp because that's immediate. And if I then have to send you an email, we do it that way. My email, elsa@elsacaleb.com. So everything is
Yes,
me.
you've made it very easy for us. And so,
Very easy.
as I close out, I always ask the guests if they have any words of encouragement, any tools, any resources, anything that they would want to share as takeaways for our listening audience outside of the absolutely wonderful gems you have already given us.
Okay, I'll give you one more. And this is how I always say to people, keep yourself when I say fresh, keep yourself on the ball so you know what's happening and how you can move forward in a positive way. Now we know there's 4 seasons in a year, whether it be winter, summer, spring, and autumn. We change our clothes, we change our wardrobes to adapt. So why is it that we don't change our business mindset and what we do every quarter? It doesn't mean that you have to stop doing the business that you're doing. You need to take time out, reflect on what you've done in the last quarter, make any necessary changes that needs to be changed to enable you to go into the next quarter.
Oh, now that's good. That's really good. Ah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Wow. Well, we have come to the end of our time together, but I have already spoken with Elsa about a part two for next year. So just know that we will be getting back together because she is such a wealth of knowledge and she shared so much information already that I really wanted to just deeply dive into. But for the sake of time, I will not do it this time, but we will definitely have a part two. So Elsa Caleb, thank you so much for being a guest for us today.
Joyce, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. It was my pleasure to have you. With that said, thank you again for being our guest because, yes, everyone needs an Elsa. And now that everyone has had a chance to listen, you understand why you do. And with that, thank you to our listeners for tuning in because I could not host this podcast without your continued support. So, as I always say, and until next time, go forward and create the life that you desire and deserve. And remember that you can do so at any age. Let's continue to transition, transform, and thrive together.